Hey everyone, and welcome to another Yogi Misfit session. My name is Danny Pomploon, and I'm your host. Today we have session 42. So if you didn't catch session 41, this is a continuation from session 41. So we had Katina on the show last week, and it was her before she did teacher training. And now we have her back on the show, and this is after teacher training. And I got to tell you, this was a really cool experience just to record, but also to just hear what someone that went through teacher training just went through. She happened to do the month-long intensive in San Francisco, and I got to be there with her for a couple days. It was such a really cool way to just put it all together. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. And also, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Starting in June, Susanna Friedman and I are doing a little special summer series. So we've got 4 new episodes coming out on Fridays for you. And it's all about topics that you guys picked, so you can look forward to those. Lastly, we are on Spotify now. So if you're a Spotify member or a listener, you can find us at the Yogi Misfit Sessions, or you can search under Danny Pomploon. Give us a follow there. And of course, as always, if you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And always, big love to my friends over at SF Yoga Magazine. They are truly just the best. I hope you guys enjoy the show, and I look forward to sharing the summer series with you as well. Enjoy this week's episode. Katina, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm so excited.
All right. So same. I got all the questions to ask you. So for those of you listening in, Katina was on the show in the previous episode, Abby. And the way we spaced this out was we got her on the first show, or on that episode, right as she started teacher training, and she was doing the month-long immersion. And now she's back, and this is pretty much just a week after, a week and a half after, 2 weeks, almost a week and a half after she just did this month-long immersion. And so let's just dive on in. That's the before show and now the after show. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I was trying to think about kind of some of the things I wanted to cover before we started recording this episode. And I just I feel like my whole life has changed, which I know that you said that was going to happen, but I don't think
I told you so.
Mentally prepared myself for that much kind of self-reflection to happen during a very short period of time. So
sure.
It's a lot going on. But yeah, I think that overall, one of the most interesting things, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more later, was kind of this mindset shift for me. I went into the training kind of expecting or thinking that I was going to achieve something and like come out being the best XYZ, like the best teacher, the best at doing handstands, things like that. And during the past 4 weeks, I really learned one of the main kind of principles of yoga, and something that I really had to push myself to know is everything is a continuous process, and there's no like point of being perfect at anything. And I think that mental shift for me has been a really interesting change, even since the training ended. But one of my biggest learnings.
I want to so tell me about when you first, day one, what was that like? You first walked in and you were like, okay, this is about to go down.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about our group is that it was all women, which I think a lot of our teachers kind of reiterated a bunch of times. So it was a small group, only 16 people. And the first day was kind of a shock, I guess, because I thought that we were going to be doing practicing physical yoga for hours. And it ended up that we did a lot of the philosophy and kind of talking about the principles of yoga, which I had never really learned about. So that was definitely something that I didn't expect, but really helpful to kind of set the groundwork for
Sure.
the next intense few weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What did okay, so I mean obviously you were there and you guys kind of got all introduced like what
Mhm.
I mean day one, what was it like after you sat down? There was people there, but what happened?
um, I'm trying to think. Wow, it feels like so long ago. So the first day, we really. Do you mean like mentally what happened for me, or like what the actual
Well,
day?
let's do both. Like what was your actual first day like and then like how did that affect you after the end of the day?
Yeah. So the first day was really about kind of getting to know each other in this group of women and our teachers that we were going to be spending these next intense 4 weeks with. So in the morning, we had one session with Darren Main, kind of talking about the structure of the next 4 weeks, like what is yoga, and really getting down to the nitty gritty definitions that we all have of yoga and kind of where we all came from, what our past practices were like. So, really kind of like a level setting day, and also just a day of getting on the same page because I think a lot of people came from very different experiences. And just a little background, we had a wide age range of people
Hmm.
in our group. I know you taught one of our sessions, but there were people ranging from like 22 to in their late 60s. So people have had a lot of different experiences with their yoga practice and what they were bringing into the room. So it was interesting.
It's so crazy because you think that it's going to be one experience and it ends up
Yeah.
being something completely different. What was the hardest thing of the entire training process?
Mm. So it's going back to that first day, we heard a lot from our teachers like, this is going to be a really emotional experience and we're ready for it. And I remember all of us in the room were like, sure, okay, we're all pretty self reflective. Like, I don't know what crazy things could happen, but, none of us expected some of the things that unfolded. And pretty much every day, at least one person was crying.
What were
um,
the crying episodes about?
It was honestly, our group got really deep just about life, like talking about different things we've experienced. Like there was one woman in my group who was recently divorced, one woman who lost her husband. So a lot of things that people were kind of struggling with as individuals,
Mhm.
that it just became kind of commonplace that one person would start crying and then basically everyone was crying,
Um,
which was really refreshing though. And then, I mean, even during the physical practice, there were some days where like we would be doing back bends and someone would just have, an interesting experience during that. And just have to leave or like be crying on their mat. And it was fine. It wasn't sad. It was just like the experience of the training, which was
it's
really
always
interesting.
it's always so intense because like when you're going through something that I mean that intense, you're spending every
Yeah.
day in there, like stuff comes up.
Yeah.
That's where I think the real teaching happens.
Totally.
Like that's where the real yoga happens is when the stuff starts to come up.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one of those experiences towards the end that I was like very much not expecting to happen. We did a day of breath work with Darren. So he kind of warned us beforehand that, some people might be hysterically crying and some people might be laughing, like we had heard about, throughout the training. This was one of our last sessions. And by that point, I hadn't really experienced much. Like many crying episodes in class. And I went into it thinking that it would be fine and just a normal experience. And honestly, from the moment that we laid down and Darren started leading us through these deep inhales and exhales, I just immediately was like sobbing for the entire hour that we did it. And it wasn't just the experience of crying, but it was really like this moment that I broke through something that I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, but allowing myself to like be okay with where I was at, wherever,
Mhm.
meeting myself where I was, which was really cool to experience in like this big group.
Darren did that pranayama thing. I took it once before, and there
Yeah.
was like two people crying, and I know he starts off with before he does it with with his little spiel about
Yeah.
rather about like, hey, stuff's gonna come up. You may cry, you may not, like whatever it is, like it's totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this on the Joshua Tree Retreat,
Oh my God.
and people were crying, and I couldn't help it, and I started belting out laughing, and I wasn't laughing at them, but I just had like this overwhelming like
Yeah.
I had to laugh. Like
Yeah.
I was cracking up, and then I felt uncomfortable, and then
Yeah.
other people started laughing, and it was like really it was really insane, but also really fun.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely like depends on the group.
Yeah,
But it
totally.
was really cool to kind of learn about. I think that's one of the areas I'm super interested in learning more about over
Is the
time.
pranayama part.
Yeah.
What did you think about my analogy saying that that yoga teacher training was more like freshman year of college, and you just did it like I know we talked
Yeah.
about it before, but like I said, it's like freshman year of college, and you're just kind of like taking all your prereq courses, and then you get to like choose your degree afterwards. Did that resonate at all?
Yes, I feel like actually I thought back to our conversation a lot. And that was such a great kind of warning for me because going into it, I kind of knew that a little bit already, but it still was so crazy to see that you're really just dipping your toe into so many different areas of yoga and kind of how vast and expansive your learning could be. And I
Mhm.
totally feel like this month was just like a view into all of the things that I don't know and where I want to focus my time going forward. But yeah, it was like a dip of your toe in the water.
Yeah, because there's so much information. Like you think there's just like you're gonna get it all in a month, and
Mhm.
you're really like barely scratching the surface.
Totally. Yeah. And I thought it was cool and goes back to one of the things that a couple of our teachers reiterated, but that everything is a work in progress. And yoga is one of the first things that I've experienced in my life that I haven't gotten bored with because I feel like there's so much to continue learning and like you're never going to be, or maybe, I don't know, but likely you won't be enlightened um,
Right.
maybe until like a very long time. But I think it's really cool that there's like this continuous pot of learning that you could keep dipping into. And I haven't ever really experienced that in life, which is really cool.
What was the best part about the training? Like, where did you just like have so much fun? And you're like, this is awesome.
Hmm. I think um, there were a lot of times during our sequencing and assisting classes where we got to work with partners or small groups and really be able to like see people grow in their comfort with teaching. Because when you first start teaching, like having taken hundreds or thousands of classes, it
Mhm.
feels like it's something that's pretty doable to do. Like, you don't think it will be hard to explain things that are in your body, but it's so incredibly difficult. Like, the first day, we had to explain one thing that we do every single day. It could be like watering your plants or making lunch. And even just doing that was pretty hard in front of a group. And I think everyone in
Sure.
our group felt the same. And one of my favorite parts throughout the training was really just like watching all of us get more comfortable speaking in front of each other and kind of, helping each other get into poses or like doing the act of teaching. And I think anytime we got to do that in class, it was my favorite part for sure.
Yeah. Did you find it? Did you get, I mean, I don't know how you are with public speaking, but did you
Yeah.
have like a hard time like standing up and cause I know you had to practice teach with the group as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I actually love talking. So I think that, and I've given a lot of like speeches or kind of been on panels and things, but I will say that doing this was pretty different. Like putting words, especially in Sanskrit, to your movement and connecting it, especially with breath, is something that was a little more difficult for me than I expected it to be.
Sure.
But I think it was really cool because, as you said, we got to do this like end of class or end of our like session class where each of us had a little segment that we got to teach to our whole class. And it was a
Hmm.
2 hour class, which was pretty crazy. And when I got up there and started talking, I felt this immediate sense of like calm and grounding come over me. And it was such an amazing thing to experience. Like all of this work led up to kind of this moment where everyone in the room is looking to you to like lead them through these kind of sequences. So I think it finally came together, but there were definitely parts throughout our training where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to end up being good at this.
It's
And
funny.
it's still learning.
You never know what's going to come out of it. That's like the best part of it, but so much, I don't know. I think so much beauty does come out of teacher training. I think that I never thought that I would be a teacher. I never thought that I would be where I'm on a podcast that's about yoga.
Yeah,
Like I never
exactly.
thought any of that stuff would happen. And now it's like I don't picture my life any other way. Like if it wasn't
Totally.
for teacher training, I give it a lot of credit, like I know that I definitely did the work, but like I feel like everyone should have to do a teacher training. I feel like before I have this like motto, I think I might have said it before, but like before you get your driver's license and before
Mhm.
you can like be an adult in the world, I think you should have to work in retail for 6 months and
Yes.
then in food service, like waiting tables or something for another 6 months, and
Mhm.
then do a teacher training, and then you can move forward in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think that something that really surprised me about this experience was how much less of an emphasis there was on the physical and more on the like mental, philosophical, kind of overall idea of yoga. Because I think,
Sure.
at least for me, I came into yoga as like a physical practice. And kind of viewing it like a workout. And I think that over time, that's obviously changed, but especially through my teacher training, it's really allowed me to experience this yoga mindset,
Right.
which sounds kind of corny, but was like such a kind of shift. And I would totally recommend that to people just like living in the world need to be able to think this way.
That's awesome, man. I'm so excited to like just have you back to hear about your
Yeah.
experience, and I don't know, it's just you can't describe it until you go through it. And once you go through it, like something magical happens. Okay,
Mhm.
here's my follow-up. So you have
Yes.
someone that's like, I'm thinking about doing teacher training. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it. Blah, 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 blah. What would you say to them? Like, what do you say to them? Like if they're saying, should I do this or what do I expect? Or, now that you've gone through this, like, what's your advice to that
Yeah.
person?
Yeah. I think that's such a great question. I would definitely say, even if you're thinking about it, don't hesitate and just do it because there was plenty of time. And I think this goes for everyone that was in my group, that deep in your gut you want to do it, but it's scary. It's a huge time commitment, it's a huge financial commitment, and it's something that kind of forces you to question a lot of things in your life. So there are a lot of reasons why it could be scary and intimidating to do. But I think that regardless, even if you don't think that you're that great at yoga or want to be a teacher, it's just a period of time that enables you to start to be reflective about so many other areas of your life, not just your like health and wellness. And I think the thing that I would recommend beforehand or even during is really keeping a journal and kind of keeping track of those mental changes. I know for sure that's something that I did, and it's still really early. It only ended 2 weeks ago. But I think it's something that is just going to be so interesting and helpful to really reflect on over time, because I know that I did it in a unique way in a month long, and some people do it over a year, even, or a couple of months. But it's such a mental shift that will help you with basically anything, anytime you're interacting with people, not just the physical parts. So, my recommendation would just don't question it and go forward with it and
I love it.
reflect over time.
I love it. Any last words of advice?
Advice. I feel like I'm still seeking advice. I would love to ask you for some advice. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that as I've said a couple of times, the most surprising part to me is that you don't need to be a perfect yogi, and you probably won't be, in order to go through with a training. And it's really just the beginning of kind of this mindset, physical shift in your life that will really enable you to kind of think differently about the world. So I am just starting on that path, and I'm really excited to see where it continues to go.
Nice. That's awesome. Katina, I can't thank you enough for coming on to the show today, and even coming on to the last show and having, this is such a cool experience. I've never done like a double up like this. It's so fun.
I'm so excited to listen to the first one now.
Yeah, it's gonna soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so great to have you on the show. And yeah, until the next episode, this is Danny and Katina saying peace out.
Bye. Thank you.